Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Chris Yee.
And I'm Wendy Yee.
And today we're taking a look at Maple Valley. I mean, technically the name is Creature Comforts Maple Valley because they're putting it in their universe of anthropomorphic cute animals.
It's a comfort game, like a comfort food.
Which is so much like there's so many of these universes out there now. But anyway, this is from Kids Table Board Games, and we're going to take a look at it. Wendy's going to show us how to play, and we'll be right back.
This is Maple Valley, and we are trying to plan a springtime party. So we have 5 rounds up here to do so. And what we'll be doing is we'll be moving our characters around by playing cards and going along little paths. We'll be collecting stuff and eventually finishing these little party favors for points and some area majority stuff up here. So let's talk about a basic round. So a round consists of players playing all of the cards that are in their hand. Now, a turn is playing one card and moving along the associated path in the upper left-hand corner. What's cool about this is you can move as many spaces as that colored path. So I could stop in any one of those 3 spots if I were down here. There's also these nice map tokens that let you play or move more spaces. So if I wanted to move those 3 green spaces and then spend a map, I can move 1 additional space as well. After you've played your card, then you're going to go ahead and take whatever the action the spot is right there. Then you'll see if you can complete any of your party favors that you're trying to complete. And then finally, that'll be the end of your turn. Once again, you do all of that until there are no cards left in hand for anybody. And then you'll start a new round. And there's different cleanup stuff as well. So let's talk a little bit about the action spaces. So we have these spaces right here with leaves. Those just give you actual resources that you can spend, as well as there's some specialty resources that you gain as you cross paths or sometimes as you play your little player cards. There's also these spots that are in the middle. These allow you to gain different types of cards. So we get friendship cards down here. These allow you to have more cards to play in the round. Then we have party favor cards are these ones that have this little symbol like this right here. These are the favors that you're trying to build. You can collect them over here on the left, and then you're trying to collect the items that are on the top left side. And then finally, the upper left-hand corner, it allows you to do this area majority stuff up here. And the points that you get for completing them are on the right. And all of the points will be scored up at the end game. They also have a little bit of bonuses at the bottom if you have other party favors that correlate with them. You also see a couple other symbols on these spots. For example, this is how you gain maps. This just allows you to put cubes out in this area majority spot over here. And then finally, we have different choices of face up and face down cards that are over here. Now, the last spaces that I haven't talked about yet are these ones with the cards. These are just special ways to trade in resources to get different resources and maybe some special powers there. And then finally have this sunspot up here. This determines whatever the specialty good is currently for that round. It will allow you to take 3 of those. And then you'll jump down over here and you can actually take this friendship space. So it resets you and it gives you a bunch of actions. So once again, the goal of the game is you're going to be playing those cards. You're going to be collecting stuff so that you can eventually finish your party favors. You'll do some area majority things. You'll get endgame points. Oh, and then I didn't mention patches. The patches over here, these are some endgame points as well as abilities that you can gain during the game. So you're trying to do all of that across the 5 different rounds. And then the player with the most hearts or the most points is the winner.
Okay, folks, I want to start out by saying a couple things here. This is not going to sound nice necessarily, but the front of this box lies twice. So,
Okay, good start.
Well, it's a Kids Table board game. This is at best, a family game. And the kids who are going to play it are definitely older kids. There is a ton going on in this game.
Yes.
Secondly, it says 60 minutes. No. Maybe with 2 players playing very quickly.
No, we had, our game
it was
ran
a long
as
game.
well with our kid and for her kid, you know what I mean? Like for an 8-year-old, like, that's a long time to ask for their attention focused on a game.
Yeah, this definitely feels more like a 10 plus to me instead of an 8 plus.
Well, sure, but I thought the 60 minutes, I've easily played this for 2 hours, and I'm not playing with slow people. I can take that into account. My problem with the length is also I felt like the game goes on 1 or 2 turns too long, which was actually one of my problems with Creature Comforts, the same thing. I like this game, a lot of things in the game. I'm going to say good things about the game, don't worry. But I felt like it went a little lengthy.
I felt like 4 rounds would have been good. By the end of the 4th round, I was feeling like, cool, we're there. Oh, we have a whole nother round.
We accomplished a lot of things. We filled in all 3 of the parade special events and stuff, and we're like, oh, there's like a whole nother. I think our daughter even said, like, I think 4 rounds would have been good. We're like, all right, cool. Yeah, apparently every one of us at the table felt that without saying it.
I would have actually said 2 of those events filled in ends the game. Because when they're filled in, they take away one of the things to do.
Right.
So,
That's interesting.
well, I mean, I'm saying that would end the game then.
Or finish the round in which the second one was
finish the round,
done.
right? I'm saying finish that round, and that's the last round of the game. Component-wise, of course, Kids Tableware Games always does a great job, and everything looks fantastic. I had one minor complaint, not minor, that's actually a decent complaint. I didn't like their symbology for the 2 different types of components, the resource tokens. And what was their other thing called?
The oddities, something. Yeah, the
oddities. That's what they were called,
little
right?
Star
Regular
symbol.
resources versus specialty resources is how I looked at it, yeah.
Right, so on the cards, they show a star for one of them and another shape for the other. But none of the resources are a star shape or the circle shape or whatever the 2 symbols they used are. And people constantly saying, what resource is it? I'm like, it's these 3 here.
Those are the blue backgrounds.
Yeah, and I just found that to be a weird...
It's a weird choice. When you set up the game and you put those triangle tokens out, on the back of them shows a star. So if you're the one who set up the game, you're like, oh, I can make that connection easier. If you're not the person who set up the game, you're going to have that question, about 5 times in it. Like, oh, this card says a star. What does that do? Wild star, whatever, you know what I mean?
So this is a worker movement game, where you move your worker and then take the action, as opposed to worker placement. You have one person going around, and I like that in this one. I like the maps that give you extra movement. I don't know how the game is set up necessarily, like the optimal ways. It's a little bit like what's the game that won the Kennerspiel? Istanbul.
Oh,
there's a little bit of that in this game to some degree. You're figuring out if I go here and here, or how far can I go up? If I go up to this one spot, I get shot back down to the bottom.
Okay.
You're trying to have efficient movement.
Yeah, efficient
You're
movements.
planning out your turns beforehand.
Some of this is definitely affected by where the resources show up. If there's a resource that's only at the top of the board and that's the only place to get it, well, guess
Honey.
what? That's where you're going. Well, no, honey is specifically up there, and that's different because honey's the one resource that's more valuable than the rest. But usually one of the resources is just more difficult to get. But I like the idea of moving around and taking actions. I find that to be interesting.
Yeah, the card-driven nature of it was satisfying for me, mixed with the map tokens that you could use to, like, okay, before I move on Riverway, I'm going to move here so I can use that Riverway. It felt really exciting for me as a gamer, and kind of overwhelming for our 8-year-old daughter, which this box says 8+ on it.
The ideal age. No. So one thing about the paths that I liked is I liked that you had those choices of, okay, I'm moving on forest. I can move 1 space on green, or I can move all 3 green spaces that are connected. I think that that's very clever because it allows you to do more. The map tokens really open up the amount that you can move. So getting to the top, if you have a couple map tokens, isn't as hard as it looks at the beginning. Like initially I was like, ooh, it's going to be tough to get up there. But you have a lot of flexibility with that. And I appreciate that those middle spaces, like you can get 2 map tokens at once. It's not like I have to waste a whole turn getting a single map token so the next turn I can move an extra space. Instead you get 2 map tokens and you get to get one of those not oddity cards.
Well, the favor cards, the things you're trying to build.
Little party favors, yeah.
Yeah, it has some really good, I like the movement in it. One of my favorite things that does make this one feel a little bit more like a younger weight game are the compensation cards, the dawdle cards. If someone has,
I like that a lot.
That's a great touch, especially for a children's game, a game that's a little bit more geared towards children, right? Someone has 5 cards and you have 3, guess what? You get 2 extra cards. They're not as good, But they're extra cards just for free. That's
But they
great.
could be as good because you usually get 2 items on them, and if you go to a specific space, you're getting 2 items often.
Sure, they don't feel as good.
I don't think
though,
they're
right?
they're not as specified towards what you want, but sometimes you go to a space because you need 1 berry, and you're like, well, do I get a second berry or do I get this other thing that's there?
Right.
When I could have just drawn into a berry potentially.
Yeah, I agree about the moving on the paths is a really cool aspect, but I think it's, again, a little bit complex, especially for younger children, and especially when you combine that with, hey, buy one of these cards. Think about the special ability and the path they move you on. Now compare that to your deck, and you're like, wah, I want this one because they're a cute raccoon. Yeah, okay, buy that one.
Remember what patches you have as well, because
Yeah.
they're multiplayers. There's a lot of stacks of cards. Like when I was setting it up to do the overview, I was like, wow, there's a lot of stacks of cards that there's a lot of markets to look at.
It's like, I mean, like My Little Everdell came out, and it was like a few steps down from Everdell, but like not that many. And this to me kind of feels like that. It feels like if Concordia was a cute animal game, and they're like, let's make My Little Concordia, and you're like, oh, you guys didn't. I don't think you trimmed off enough. Like I'm surprised that the badges aren't like an extra module to play once you've gotten the base game down.
So speaking of Everdell, this game does the same thing Everdell does. Everdell does it in a smaller way. This one does it more, and I'm starting to get tired of it. It was also in Creature Comforts, and that's hey, you have this card, but if you have this other card, you get extra points. And I don't mind, because a lot of games have done this in the
Yeah, I
past.
was like, I don't mind that,
Where there's lots
but-
of different points, but there's 2 cards in there that they're both worth points, but if you get them both. This game has tons of them. Like almost every card, almost, right? You have this, and then you're sitting there going, well, I didn't see it. None of the cards are the ones that match mine, and it feels real lucky when someone does get the matching ones.
It is only worth 2 points.
Yeah,
So
well,
it
that's a
doesn't-
decent amount of points, though.
And there's also many duplicates of those cards, so I didn't mind. I mean, if you need marionettes, there's like 5 marionettes in the
But
deck.
you don't go through the whole deck.
You don't.
And you
That's
might
true.
not see any of the ones you need. And if you get multiple cards that work with the same one, that
That's
luck
true.
compounds a bit.
That is a little bit weird that you're like, okay, I have 1 lantern, but
Right, so
now
now I
all
activate
of
3
my
cards.
yeah.
Now, I say all this, I think the game's fine. I think it should be shorter. I think it's definitely a family weight game. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even sure it's that simple comparatively. Like, I would put Ticket to Ride as simpler than this,
I agree.
Oh, definitely.
right? So I think the game looks cuter and funner than it is. I think the length and the fact that it goes on a little bit longer and the fact that you put the cubes at the top and then those fill up and then the game is like, I'm like, well, I guess I'll just buy more cards. And each round is just longer, not necessarily better. They're a little better with those characters you get, but they're just longer. Where whoever has the most cards is determining how long the round goes. So it's close for me. I find it enjoyable. I don't want to play it all the time. I'm giving it a 6. I don't think it's bad, but for me, it's just kind of it's interesting. I just wish the game was a little tighter.
I also am giving this one a 6 because of those reasons, you know. And the game is so cute and so adorable looking. The Creature Comforts artwork looks like this, but just a little bit more grown up. And so it's hard that when you look at these critters are cuter, they're younger, and it kind of evokes that idea that like this is really to play with your kids. And I kind of wish that it had a family mode, like a simpler mode. You know, we've played plenty of games lately that have that. You know, don't use these extra mechanisms. Flip the board over to the other side. There's fewer spaces. There's not those 2 outpost trading post cards that have a trade mechanism, then a special ability written in text. You know what I mean? And like, a kid's not going to like look at that and be like, I'm excited to trade in 2 non-matching resources to be able to get 2 stars so that I can complete this awesome move thing on my turn. You know, it's a little bit much. So it's a 6 for me. If it was shorter and simpler, this would be, yeah. But
It'd be a higher score.
it would be a higher score.
Interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and give this 7. I enjoyed it. I thought that it was fun. I enjoy that there's more meat to it than it looks like there's going to be. I'm not going to play this with my child again, though. And so I think when I disconnect that and I say, hey, getting my like child who's just super distracted in between turns because it's so long, because there's so much to think about, setting that aside and playing it as a game, I think I very much enjoy this and a lot of what's going on. I think that the area control is, I like that it's not this deep main point gainer of the game, but then you get a significant amount of points from it,
You
and
really
it gives you those bonuses once you've completed it, and I enjoy that and I appreciate that, and I think that's why I don't necessarily want it to end after 2 out of the 3 are done, because I want those rewards. I agree, it could be 1 round less.
Yeah, but you can't get to you might not be able to get to the 3rd one or something. I don't know. I found that to be.
You can always put a cube out. You can always get a cube on there.
Just do one
That's
of
an
those
action
middle
space.
actions.
Yeah. So that
Yes,
doesn't
but
bother
if
me.
the other ways don't work for that, is that middle action putting a cube out also is not particularly interesting. It's okay.
Yeah, but you get more cards with it. It's not just the cube, it's the patches. So I think that's the thing, is that the spaces are interesting enough in this game that I want to go to those spaces that typically in these kind of games I won't go to. I won't just get new map tiles, but because I get new map tiles and I get an extra card, or I get to put out a cube and I get a patch and I get another friendship card or whatever it is. Like, you get a lot of that fun stuff. And so I'm giving this a 7 because I enjoyed it, but once again, not a kid's game.
Well, there you go, folks. That is Maple Valley. We'll see you next time. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Chris Yee.
I'm Wendy Yee.
Look at all these friends I have.